Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I've got a video of my supercharged Rakdos aggro deck that I've been using to take on the ladder. So I do like my creature decks, and I love Rakdos decks, but I wanted to try something a little different to the current Rakdos decks I seem to be playing against. So I put this list together, and the deck seems pretty solid, and I get to play with some of my favourite cards. Our plan is to get as much damage through as quick as possible and by any means necessary. So my two favourite creatures are both human werewolves as it goes. Firstly, Reckless Stormseeker. I've loved this card since it first dropped, and I believe it is a must-kill card for our opponents before it takes over. It's a 2/3/3 drop that at the beginning of combat gives target creature you control +1/+0 and haste until end of turn, and on its nighttime side gives a creature +2/+0 and trample and haste until end of turn. This is a great way to give haste to any of our other creatures that may not have it already, and is a magnet for removal our opponents may be sandbagging. The other werewolf is Graveyard Trespasser. This card is super strong, as for 3 mana it's a 3/3 creature with ward, discard a card, and when it ETBs or attacks you get to exile a card from a graveyard. If that card's a creature you get to drain for 1. The night side lets you target 2 cards to potentially drain for 2. So I love this card, as even if it's removed, you hopefully at least drained for 1, exiled a card, use an opponent's removal, and they had to discard 2. If you can give this with haste with Stormseeker as well, you're golden. Other hastes in the deck, Shivan Devastator, 0/0 for X and a mountain, enters with X +1 counters on it. They're great both early and late and pairs really well with our next creature, Thundering Raiju. This is a 4-drop 3/3 of haste that when it attacks you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature. And then Raiju deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you have that are not the Raiju. So the Shivan Devastator does actually count as a modified creature. This is a solid card and great in the 4-drop slot. In the 2-drop slot, I went for 3 Radha's Firebrand, a 3/1 human that when it attacks makes a target creature unable to block if that creature has power less than Radha's. So dropping this on turn 2, then a haste on turn 3 is pretty strong. I've also got an underdog for a little extra value too. This can be blitzed if needed, but it's a card I'm happy to discard or play into open mana. We also have a couple of Concealing Curtains for some early plays. These are also good mana sinks for later on, and the Menace means we can, fingers crossed, get some damage through as well. Lastly, we've got 3 Sheoldreds, probably the best creature in Standard at the moment. It's solid, it's a house, and it's good at getting through incremental damage. And we have 2 Junjis as flyers that have Menace, so pretty annoying to block. Also, when it dies, we get to put a non-dragon creature from any graveyard onto the battlefield, so some value on top of it just being a 5/5, especially if we're up against reanimator decks. Obviously, we can't play red without playing Fable. Giving haste to the token to ramp early on is also a pretty nice option to have. Interaction-wise, 4 Infernal Grasps, a cheeky Soul Transfer, and a Burn Down the House. If we can get our opponents to 3 life, the Devils are usually lethal, and I love cards like this that gives you options based on board states. We could run Lightning Strike in this deck as well, just for a little bit extra burn straight to the opponent's face, but I went with the Infernal Grasps instead. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this deck, as I get to use the cards I love, and just mashing the attack button makes me happy too. So as always, feel free to subscribe if you haven't for future videos, and I'll catch you after the games to see how I got on. Alright, on the draw. I mean, this hand's okay. It's pretty uninspiring. Mulligan there. Okay, well, this hand's not particularly better, but I don't want to go down anymore. I wish I kept the first hand now, as we do have a lot of interaction in hand, as we draw a Shivan Devastator. So this is a pretty decent card to have turn 1, or turn 10, to be honest. Riveter's Requisitioner. Okay, so not a card you see often. When it dies, it creates a treasure. Opponent with their own Stormseeker. So I'm glad we held our Infernal Grasp for dealing with that. But they still get to attack us for 3. So maybe mono red for the opponent here. Get to play our Fable here. So maybe Curtains might have been an option there, as a 0/4 can block the Riveter Requisitioner. Might have been an option without killing it. But opponent's pretty aggressive here with another Stormseeker and a Phoenix Chick. So, yeah, not looking too good for us here. We get to discard some cards. I don't mind my hand. Oh, a Shoulder is pretty nice. But this Phoenix Chick is going to peck us away over the next few turns. So, not looking great here. So decisions to be made, I think. So we can always use our exile effect on one of their creatures. We can play our Shivan Devastator as a blocker for the chick, but the Stormseeker is going to be pretty powerful here. So I went with the Concealing Curtains and Soul Transfer to get rid of the Stormseeker, just so that they don't play a card like, well, a card that doesn't have haste and giving it haste. So looks definitely like mono red here. And okay, opponent with their own Devastator, sure. So 4 more damage to us, and okay, we drew Junji, so pretty decent blocker there for the Devastator. Got to be a little bit careful how we play this. I mean, I think the only thing we can do is play Junji and hope to block. No point attacking, I don't think, at this particular moment. We're definitely the defensive-minded player here. An opponent with a Chandra. Okay, so that's going to kill us over the course of the next couple of turns. So not a good start here for us. A lot of pressure, but no attacks from the opponent there, surprising me, to be honest. Although they would have lost their Devastator, we would be on 1. So, big turn for us here. As we draw a Trespasser. Okay, so thinking about how we just need to survive to our next turn rather than actually doing anything else. So Chandra needs to be dealt with. The Devastator and the chick also need to be dealt with. The chick can't block, so we can attack down Chandra with our Junji. We can kill that. We attack with the 2/2 to get a treasure, so that we now have 5 mana. Opponent blocks. Okay, so they're going to lose their Requisitioner. They gain a treasure, but surely at this point in the game, that's fine. So we do have Reflection here if we want to use that to copy a card. And yeah, I went down with Trespasser here to gain some life from the graveyard. So it puts us on 3. So we can now play our Devastator that we have been holding for 1, just as a blocker till next turn. So we can block the Devastator, although we'll take 1 with a chick. Hopefully we can start reflecting the Trespasser here and gaining back some life. And then Sheoldred can hopefully take over. So fingers crossed the opponent doesn't have another flying haster. Or, yeah, anything with haste, really. Any big boy. What have they got? We're only on 3. Oh, an opponent scoops it up. Nice. So they must not have drawn anything. They went a bit too quickly, I think. But we managed to stabilize right in the nick of time. All right. On the play. Game number 2. Yeah, pretty decent hand. Got a couple of our 5 drops, so we'll be looking to get some earlier plays up until that point. Okay, another Swamp. Sure, so also going to need to get some red mana, it seems. Opponent on Esper. We get to run out our Underdog. And yeah, and just attack the opponent for 3. And we get to play our Trespasser in the second main. Okay, well, opponent cuts down our Underdog, which is fine. Yeah, it's one of the cards I'm more than happy to have killed, so we get to play it from our graveyard. And we get to resolve our Trespasser anyway. So opponent with Rafine. Okay, so pretty strong card for our opponent there. Just a 1/4. We get to play Radha here as we drew a red mana and attack. And yeah, that is what I just did. I exiled my own Underdog from the graveyard accidentally. Just clicked through without thinking about it. Which is annoying, but these things happen. We're not going to worry about it too much. Okay, opponent gets to attack with their Rafine. And they connive away. So pretty aggressive here from our opponents. We've got 6 power on the board. So they must be holding removal or some kind of bounce spell. Okay, opponent in the tank here with their Rafine. Discard a land, that's fine. Must have a pretty decent hand if they're getting rid of lands. And it goes to Knight. Now, was that a mistake by them? So we get to attack for 7 here. Maybe they didn't want to put creatures in their graveyard due to the Trespasser. So we can attack here with our creatures. The Firebrand wants to target a creature, but we don't need to. Okay, so Urtai resurrected, it seems. All right, so they're going to counter our Trespasser's ability, or are they going to kill it? They discard a card. All right, they're just going to kill it straight up. All right, so I'm fine with that. If the opponent wants to discard a card to kill a creature like that and see if they block, because that would be fine with me as well. All right, they don't block. Best thing to do. But one of the best creatures up against conniving decks is Sheoldred, so opponent is going to need to deal with this, otherwise we're going to be gaining life each turn, or each time they attack, and it's AO. Alright, cool. So, pretty decent board for our opponent here. Rafine attacks. They get to connive. We gain 2 life. We take 2 damage, so yeah, 3rd land for us there. Okay, so we need to start doing a little bit of damage here. AO is a huge issue. So we run out our Junji here. Decent blocker for AO. Also can attack through it. Radha could make the Urtai unable to block, but AO can block anyway, so no attacks. So the opponent's kind of stabilized here on 12 life. They take another 2 through Sheoldred. So I think Sheoldred is our best bet here to win this game. Radha is a decent card for our opponent, and they attack with AO. Alright, so we can block this. They are going to get a token copy of it through the Radha, which they smartly played before attacks. But 6/5 with Vigilance is a card I've gone to block because I felt like I needed to get rid of this card as quick as I possibly can. It's an option that we have to do it. Junji was on the battlefield to block or to attack with its menace. Opponent's down to 8 now, though, so if we can just hang in there, let Sheoldred do its work, we should have the opponent dead in a couple of turns. Alright, so Junji activates here. We can make the opponent discard 2 cards, which is decent, but I like bringing back creatures, to be honest. We can't target AO because it's a dragon. We do have a Trespasser in our graveyard, which is a decent way of taking out the opponent's 2 creatures. So hitting the opponent for another 2 there. And if they do have any reanimation targets, at least they can't bring back AO. So opponent is now on 6 life. Attacking through them is going to be difficult here. So what are our options? We've got burn down the house to clear this board except for the Rafine. That's always an idea. Raiju can put a counter somewhere, but the 4/7 of Rafine is pretty big actually, and also the Radha being a 5/5 is annoying as well. So what we need to do is try and get as much damage through as possible here, whilst we can. So I've played the Devastator here just as a 1/1, so that we can play our Raiju. We can attack with our Raiju here. Raiju will hit the opponent for 2. Because there are 2, because I played the Devastator before combat, so there was 2 modified creatures on the battlefield. The Glutton can also take out Junji from our graveyard to put the opponent down to 3. I'm fine with losing our creature here. It's all about as much damage as we can possibly do. Okay, and obviously they block with their Urtai. It comes back with through Radha and they get to kill our Sheoldred. So opponent down to 3. So it all depends on what we draw as they throw down an AO. All right, so I don't think we're getting through this opponent anymore. So we need to try and find a way of hitting the opponent for 3 damage and hope they don't gain any life in the meantime. And clearly in our hand we have Burn Down the House, so we can always use the second option of the card, which will put 3 devils onto the battlefield. They have haste. When they die, they get to do 1 damage to the opponent. So opponent being on 3 life, they don't realize they are already dead unless they have a way of gaining life or exiling one of our devils. So they get to attack. Obviously we're going to just take this. The vigilance of AO is a real problem, I think, against some decks. It's a really good card, I think, in white. And yeah, we get to just play our devils and attack with everyone. And we know that however they block, these devils are going to die. And if they don't block, they're going to go straight to the opponent's face anyway. So I always think that if you've got Burn Down the House in your hands, you've got to think the opponent is normally on 3 less life than they actually are. And yeah, they're just wondering now how they're going to block and get out of this. So a few decks I've seen play Elspeth to give AO life gain as well. They may have one in their deck, as yeah, they're dead now, I see, and they just scoop it up before they die. So just about squeaked that victory in there. But that's what we're trying to do, trying to get as much little bits of damage throughout the game as possible. All right, game number 3. Our hand is pretty nice. Opponent with a swamp. We get to play Swamp and a Mountain. No 2-drops for us, but we should be okay once we can start throwing down these 3 jobs. I went with Fable first, as I'm presuming the opponent has removal, and I didn't really want to put a Stormseeker straight into an Infernal Grasp or Liliana. Okay, so opponent with a Trespasser, so yeah, mono black, I would say. And we get to discard a card, but our hand's pretty good, so I don't really know what else we'd be looking for. Maybe land only, but we get to put our Raiju down, which after it attacks will be a 4/4, so pretty strong card in the face of just a 3/3. And opponent takes it all, which is fine. So this is one of those situations that if they get a Liliana now, we're in a bit of a pickle, but opponent attacks with their Trespasser and plays an Evolved Sleeper. And another Evolved Sleeper. Okay, so I'm fine with the way things are right now. Fable becomes Kiki-Jiki. And we get to throw down our Stormseeker. So, slight misplay here by me. I go to activate the Stormseeker on the Kiki-Jiki to then be able to attack with 2 Raijus. However, the wording of Stormseeker says before combat, or at the beginning of combat, which means there's never a point where you get to use the Kiki-Jiki to make a Raiju to attack with it, because you've already gone past that declare attacker's phase. So, annoying there, but is what it is. I think I also go to make the Kiki-Jiki create another copy of my card at the opponent's end step, but it loses its haste ability at the end of this turn, so I should have done it now. So it was just a small interaction that I'd never really had Reflections and Stormseeker on the battlefield at the same time. So it's lost its haste, unbeknownst to me. Not making that mistake again. His opponent played Shakedown Heavy there. I think at this point I'm trying to work out exactly what happened, but then the penny drops. However, we still need to win this game. So we draw a Devastator. So we can literally play any card in our hand here. Yeah, we've got any option. To be honest, any of these cards would be pretty good, except for maybe the Firebrand. But I opt for the Devastator. And we can't copy the Devastator, as I'm pretty sure it would come in as a 0/0, but playing the Devastator just for 2, X is 2 there, we get to make a copy of the Raiju. Just as it's one of our bigger creatures. And just spread the counters around. Yeah, we're just trying to get as aggressive here as possible. Opponent is down to 8 with the double Raiju activations of the modified creatures. Guess we could have put a counter there on the reflection of Kiki-Jiki to get some extra damage through, as we don't have to attack with the modified creatures, but I'm pretty fine with where we are. We're just mashing the attack all button here. And even that little slip up the other turn with our Stormseeker and Kiki-Jiki hasn't really mattered. The opponent goes down to 1. Yeah, and 2 of our cards in our hand have haste, and the Raiju will win alone. So I think this is a pretty obvious win. Opponent does get to attack with the Trespasser and gain a life. Not sure what they could have. I guess a meat hook here would help them out, as they do have a meat hook. Can only do it for 2 though. They gain a life, and yeah, they're just they're dead on board, to be honest. And we can attack here for the victory. So pretty dominating display there against Mono Black, but they didn't seem to have too much interaction, so I think we might have got away with that one. And move on to the next game. Alright, on the play with a hand that I don't think any opponent would ever want to see that we've got, to be honest. I wouldn't want to look in opponent's hand and see our hand here. 3 Infernal Grasps, but we get to play a Firebrand here. Opponent with a green mana, and they play a Beast Caller. Okay, so we can kill that now with Infernal Grasp. However, the Firebrand, when it attacks, will be unblockable. So I opted for the Fable here just to get that down onto the battlefield. We have the option next turn of killing whatever they want to play, as it's Kadama. And yeah, the Beast Caller becomes a 3/3. Gets to attack, and they get to ramp. As we draw a 4th land, which is nice. So yeah, we can get rid of one of the Infernal Grasp. I don't want to go too crazy with getting rid of them. If we can just keep their creatures off the battlefield here, we can get the opponent dead in a couple of turns. But we get to play a Grasp here, and we'll definitely take out Kadama. I do like Kadama. It's a really, really sweet card, especially with all these +1 counters and modified creatures that are around at the moment. Beast Caller is a 3/3 though, so we have to be a little bit wary of pump spells from them, but we are holding open Infernal Grasp if needs be. And they attack, and an Elder for their opponent. And yeah, we can kill that before that takes over itself. So I'm glad we held back the Infernal Grasp. Slightly concerned that when we discarded another Infernal Grasp early on, we should have kept it. But we get to play a Raiju here, or the Devastator. Gone for the Raiju. And yeah, we can just get pretty aggressive. So putting the counter on the Firebrand means that if the opponent doesn't attack with this Beast Caller next turn, it can't block. Opponent down to 2, so this has been a pretty aggressive play from us, and yeah, they have to scoop it up because they can't deal with our threats. And another little victory there. On to the next one. Alright, on the play. Okay, so our hand is pretty nice. And we get to lead with a Swamp. No turn 1 or turn 2 plays in our hand though, so fingers crossed we draw one of those on our next turn. Opponent with a Swamp, and we draw Sheoldred, so that's fine as well. Getting to 3 mana in this deck is pretty sweet because most of our decent cards are at that cost. And yeah, we opponent with the Underdog, and we get to play a Fable here. Get that going. And yeah, they attack for 3. Clearly not going to block. And a Spirited Companion. Okay, so maybe quite a few little 1/1s we might have to get through if they want to play an announcement soon. But they did miss a land drop, which is very good news. So we can get aggressive now and try and get some damage on the board whilst they are lacking mana. Gets put a counter on our Fable token. Attack the opponent. They don't block. They go down to 6. And yeah, scoop it up because they didn't get their 3rd mana. Feel a little bit bad there, but what are you going to do? So some quick games there. The season just reset, so players like to get their previous rank quickly, and aggro is how it seems to be done. This deck is pretty aggressive, but in the face of bigger threats and life gain, it does struggle a little bit. But it's fun, and that's the main thing, and I challenge you to always play whatever you find fun. So thanks for watching, subscribe if you can, and I'll see you again soon.